our warm up now. So go ahead and just lay on the ground. And I'm going to start with a couple breaths. Nice tucked in position, feet are close to the hips, the back is firmly on the ground, you're just nice and relaxed. We're going to breathe here. Trying to fill the belly, get that expansion at the base of your rib cage. Try and breathe in enough that you really feel some stretching internally. Think about your chest spreading onto the ground, opening up. And one more breath here in this position, make it nice and big. And now we're going to gently extend one leg at a time. Make sure you're keeping the spine on the ground. If you feel like it comes off, go less far with your feet. And from here, going to bring the arms up overhead. Try and think you're reaching as far as you can, thumbs to the ground, letting it settle down behind you, keeping that extension. Try and keep your mid-back on the ground, so right under your shoulder blades. If that comes up, bring the arms up enough that you can keep that compression and then hold that as you're going down. You'll feel your lats firing up, your abs. Once we get to this position where you're feeling that stretch or you're all the way to the ground, you're going to take some nice deep breaths here. Again, feeling that expansion in your belly, the base of the rib cage. Keep thinking you're reaching your arms as far as you can, so you're about to dive into the water. You don't want to bring them together though, so just going for that extension. One more breath. And from here, move your arms out to the side so you can relax them down to the ground. And what we're going to do now is some body rolls. So taking one hand, you're going to reach as far as you can across your body, keeping your hips on the ground, and twist yourself over. So you're on the ground on the side. Taking that same arm, reach back behind you. Again, trying to keep the hips on the ground. So you twist the spine and come back. And then we're going to go this way. Same thing. Try and keep your hips down and back. Really should move further from my wall. And now we're going to do the same thing with the legs. So up, reaching, keeping your shoulder down, feeling that twist, and bring yourself over, nice and controlled. Make sure you're calmly breathing while you're doing this. You don't want to be holding the breath. And over to the other side. Trying to feel that weight shifting around, using that to control your body. There we go, very nice. Now we're going to get back into this tuck position. Knees up, feet up, doing some wishbone kicks here. So going to open your legs out to the side and extend the heel, point, flex, back down. Try and really feel that increase in tension as you point and as you flex. And then together, apart, extend, point, flex, down, other side. Try and just make sure you're calmly breathing, because this has a lot of parts to it. It's hard to pick out a super set rhythm. So just trying to make sure you're not holding your breath at any point. I'm going to go 2 more times through. Try to make sure your toes are getting involved if they haven't been. And we're going to bring that down. Very nice. Next up, we're going to do some active butterflies. So get your feet together as far away or close as you need to be to feel like you can keep your low back on the ground. And then you're going to squeeze, open the knees as you inhale. As you exhale, you're going to bring the knees up and together. Inhale and exhale. Again, you're trying to make sure you're keeping a little bit of contact with the ground, with your low back. So if you're too far in and you're kicked off or your pelvis is up, just shift your feet forwards or back until you can find that nice neutral point with your pelvis. Inhale down, find that squeeze on the outside edge of your hips. And exhale, we go up. Do a couple more of these. Try and feel your rib cage shifting downwards towards your pelvis. Last exhale. You're going to go ahead and walk your feet out. Next up, we're going to do some shoulder bridges. So, about a foot or so between your hips and your feet. Nice hip width distance. Legs are parallel. You're going to drive into the ground. Push your hips up. Find that glute squeeze real strongly. And we're going to hold here, squeezing and breathing. If this is a challenge, just hold here. If this is feeling pretty easy, what I want you to try to do is move your knees apart, holding that squeeze, and then back into neutral. So just kind of opening and not closing your legs, but getting back to neutral. You should feel weight shift to the outside edge of your feet. Trying to hold yourself at that same height. So don't have yourself shift down. Abs are engaged. Ribs are pulled towards the pelvis. I'm going to do a few more of these openers. If you're still just holding statically, that's excellent. Keep it up. You need to come down because your glutes are tired. Feel free to come down. Go one last one. Nice big open, feeling that, and then outside edge of your glutes. Slowly sink it down. And we're going to just do a few active ones. So up, squeeze, and down. Really trying to feel that stretch in the hip flexors. All right, top inside edge of your hips. Do one more. Excellent. Now we're going to do some low back warm up. So hug your knees to your chest, squeeze them down a little bit as your pelvis comes up. And we're going to go side to side rocking. Feeling the muscles of the back, kind of getting a little bit of a massage, putting pressure on each side of your spine. Nice, gentle back and forth. Keep up the breathing. And now what we're going to do is pause in neutral and forwards and back. I like to exhale as I squeeze my knees in. Trying to really rock the low back off the ground. And then when you're going the other way, feel a little bit of an arch. And now we're going to put those together. So I'm going to make big circles with the knees. You're going to go 5 times each direction. So So feeling your weight shifting in that circle. We're going to go the other direction. Really trying to get range in this. So you're really moving. And he's pretty far. And there we go. Get back to neutral. Let the legs come down. And we're going to roll over into tabletop. First thing we're going to do is some frog squats. Really get the groin open. So you're going to start your knees nice and wide, feet are flat on the ground. If you're feeling tension in the groin here at this position, go ahead and stay here. Otherwise, see if you can come down onto your elbows. Finding the glutes, you're going to squeeze the glutes, squeeze the abs. We're going to move forwards, feeling a little bit of that groin stretch. Back to neutral. Breathe. Exhale, push your hips backwards. Finding that groin stretch. The more you put an arch in the low back, the more of a groin stretch you're going to get. Forwards, finding that stretch. Neutral. Just breathing into each position. Inhaling to neutral. Working on feeling that groin stretch. If it's too much, it's totally right to be up here. Doing it with the arms fully extended. Make sure you're pushing the ground away from you. But again, if you can be on your elbows, it's a little easier to get the groin stretch in. Go one more backwards. And then to come out of this, just come all the way forward, let your hips come down, and come back into your tabletop. Next up is a wrist warm up. So splay the fingers as much as possible, plant them on the ground, get your shoulders stacked right over them, and we're going to do some circles. If this feels like too much weight, move your hands closer to your feet. Going for 5 circles each direction, keeping your fingers pushed into the ground, your knuckles pushed into the ground. As much as possible, you're twisting your arms so your elbow creases point forwards. And you're pushing the ground away from you. I know it's a lot of things, so just try and focus on one at a time. See if you can make it happen. And don't forget about breathing. And there's that 5. And now what we're going to do is go onto the backs of the hands. Thumbs are pointed together, fingers are pointed towards the knees. We're just going to rock towards the legs and then forwards. Make sure you're pushing into the ground with your fingertips. You're really loading this into the muscle. Back and forwards. So we're not trying to necessarily really do this quickly. We want to feel that tension and come out of it. Keep your elbows locked, pushing the ground away. And we're going to go ahead and come out of that. Next up, we're going to just do some quick rotations here. So plant the hands, push your chest up high, and you're going to spin so your elbow creases forwards, and then relax them. Elbow creases forwards, and relax. Try and keep weight on the pointer knuckle, right? So this is important. That part's going to want to come up. Try and keep weight down on it as you're twisting. Nice big exhale and inhale. You should feel this in the shoulder blades, in the shoulders, maybe in your lats, and you're getting this twisting motion. This helps get your shoulders to be in a more stable position. It's very important for any time you're doing loaded work on the arms. Go 2 more. especially most of your exercise is swimming. It's really important to have that shoulder stability doing loaded work. Onto the fists, we're going to tip and tip. Think your shoulders stay over that point of weight on the ground, so you don't want to be shifting forwards and backwards with your shoulders. Forwards, backwards with the fist. Feeling that stretch on either side of your wrist. Keeping your grip squeezed tightly. And this should happen naturally, but make sure your elbow creases are forwards. And last one, there we go, nice. And now from here, we're going to sit back onto our hips, or our feet. And we're going to take the hands, and you're going to reach up towards the ceiling, pulling the bottom hand away from you. And then reach through, trying to get as far as you can away. And reach up. And through. And up. Really trying to feel this rotation in the upper torso. Make sure you're squeezing the glutes slightly. Trying to keep a little bit of a arch to the low back. I'm going to do this last reach on this side. And switch sides. Reaching up to the ceiling, pulling that other hand back and through. Again, trying to keep a little bit of an arch to the low back, accessing the glutes, feeling that squeeze. Just calmly breathing as you do this, exhaling up. Inhaling and exhaling again as you reach. And do one more. Nice. And come into this kneeling position. We're going to do some hero squats here. So, come from this side. Hip width distance, you're on your toes if it's comfortable. If it's not, you can be on the backs of your feet. Fists to temples, close your elbows. You're going to come up, open your elbows, and sink down, finding the glutes, using that tension to sink down back to your starting position. Down and up. Inhale and exhale. If this is uncomfortable on the knees, feel free to use a pillow. Try and, if you're on your toes, really feel your weight pushing into the ground with your toes. We're going to do a couple more of these. Really try and get the elbows back without lifting the rib cage up. And keep your ribs down. Your abs are engaged, your glutes are engaged. Should be feeling this in the glutes and the upper back in between the shoulder blades. Last one. And there we go. Woo. I'm going to check what time it is. Cool. So what I'm going to do now is a lunge, get some hip flexor stretching. So I want you to start calf raise, weight in this front foot primarily. So from here, find the glute in this back leg. You want to lean forward as much as you need to. Feel that tension. You're going to sink that heel down to build tension everywhere in that back leg. You're going to just hold in this position for a little bit. Nice calm breathing. If this feels like it's too much, you can move your leg forwards. Try and make sure you're squeezing here. So feeling that the hip flexor on this side. And what we're going to do now, again, fists to temple. You're going to inhale. As you exhale, you're going to twist towards your standing leg. Inhale back. Exhale and twist. Trying to use this twist to feel more tension here. You're pushing with your back leg to initiate that twist. Make sure your toes are driving into the ground, both feet. One last time. And shift the weight forwards and stand. And then we're gonna go same on the other foot. Shift it backwards. Weights here. You're finding the glute, keeping the weight on all the toes. Find the glute squeeze on that little back leg and sink the heel down until you feel some tension. Calmly breathe in this position for a bit. Make sure your head's kind of pulling backwards. You don't want to be letting it come forwards or down. Backwards, abs are engaged. And fist to temple and twist with that exhale. Nice big exhales. You're driving through that back leg, feeling that increased glute squeeze. Really trying to get this into the hip flexor as much as you can. One more. Shift the weight forwards and stand up. Nice. We're gonna do 2 more warm-up things and we get started with the exercises. First up is some alternating arm circles. Hands together in front of you, reaching as far as you can. And you're doing opposites back to the center. So your arms should be matched here, down, sweeping. Try and think you're keeping your shoulder girdle low so you're not shrugging up while you're doing this. The knees are bent, the glutes are engaged, your abs are engaged. You're reaching your arms as far as you can the whole time. Goal here is to get a little bit of lactic acid in the shoulders, a little bit of that burning, fatigued sensation. We're going to pause, and now we're going to go the opposite direction. Nice calm breathing. Feeling that tension in your shoulder complex, maybe in your pecs, maybe in your traps. Should definitely be the deltoids, which is the main muscle on the shoulder itself. Make sure your knees are staying relaxed, your glutes are staying engaged. Do one more. And there we go. And last thing we're going to do is some head and eye warm-ups. So find a point in front of you to fixate on. It literally can be anything, just something that you will keep your eyes tracking on. And what you're going to do is keep your eyes on it and twist your head as far as you can. And then back to neutral. And twist your head as far as you can. Keeping your eyes focused on that point. Letting abs, glutes, knees relaxed, shoulders relaxed. Back and forth. Feeling that tension in the neck on the side as you're pulling. Now we're going to go back to neutral. we're going to go up and down, same thing. So tipping up as far as you can and tipping down as far as you can. Try and think your head's moving backwards as you tip up and your chin's tucking as you tip down. And there we go. Very nice. So that was the warm-up for this class. What we're going to do now is get into the exercise. So it's going to be 3 6-minute rounds of 3 exercises each. Go through approximately 2 times. So the first round, I'm going to demonstrate. We go through together, find a progression that works for you, and then we'll be doing it. So the first movement is something I call squat openers. So hip width with the feet. Feet are pointing forwards. You're going to put your head and hands in this temple position that we've done a few times now in the warm-up. Elbows start forwards. You're going to squat down, finding the glutes, finding your end range. If that's here, fine. If it's all the way down here, excellent. Try and just find wherever that is. And what you're going to do is you're going to lock into that position, abs are engaged, and you're going to open, close, and stand, right? And that is this movement. Down, open, close, and stand. So you affect the difficulty, how far you sink, how much you try and open the elbows. Key point to focus on is keeping the abs tight. Next up, some mountain climbers. So you're going to split the fingers, get into your plank position. Let's twist the elbows like we did for the warm-up, pushing the ground away. Slowly bring it forwards and touch, slowly back out. Touch and out. Touch and out. So right, back and forth. If you're finding this difficult, you can go elbows, right? Don't go as far. You can also go here and just not go as far, not trying to touch. If you want it to be harder, you can try and go out to the side, or you can try and bring your hands narrower, because then you're more wobbly. Last one up is the downward dog. Downward dog, what do I call this? All right, downward dog, knee touches. Yes. So from tabletop, pushing the downward dog. What you're going to do here is reach and try and touch wherever you can get to on your body. If you want to try, you can try and touch your heel. And it's going to shift your weight into that downward dog position. You're going to feel this in the upper body because you're having to push with that arm. So really focus on using your arm, drive your hips back. Well, it's really easy to self-modulate just how far you push. So 8 to 12 of the squats, 16 to 20 mountain climbers, 8 to 12 of the downward dog. Got 6 minutes on the clock, starting with the squat openers in 3, 2, and let's go. So just finding that exhale and up. Make sure you're squeezing the glutes as you're doing this. Again, if you only get to here, it's totally fine. You want to be able to control your squat depth and feel your glutes the whole time. Try and keep your spine as extended as possible. Again, feeling that glute squeeze as you drive up. We're going 8 to 12. Should be really feeling this in the upper back. Man, my knees are creaky today. Okay, and mountain climbers. 16 and 20. Splay the fingers. Get your shoulders centered over your hands. Twist the elbows. And bring knee to elbow. Or as far as you can, comfortably, not compromising your low back form. Feel weight down with your fingertips. Going nice and slow here. Pushing the ground away from you. And hold your ribs tucked down. Your abs are pulling upwards. And there we go. And the downward dog knee touches. In the tabletop position, push your hips up and backwards, and then reach. Trying to use that reach, feel that increased stretch in your downward dog. Use your arm. You're gonna feel like your shoulder blade sinks down your body. You're driving through that front hand. Trying to keep your hips as high as possible. Make sure you're really pushing. You want to try and have this be an arm exercise. And there we go. And down. And back to the squats. I'm going to get through 3 rounds this time. This one was fast. Temples down and open. So I inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Oh, whoops. Again, make sure you're really finding your glutes, pushing your hips backwards as you're squatting down. Try and keep your head extended. Your chin slightly tucked, so you're just double chinning yourself. And there we go. Mountain climbers. Push the ground away, twist the elbows, engage with the fingers, and go for it. Make sure you're engaging the ground with your fingers, like trying to squeeze the ground. Exhaling as you bring that knee forwards. Whew. I'm a little winded today, so I'm not talking quite as much as normal. Down dog touches. Pressing up, getting the hips as high as possible. Reaching back and touching. The more you keep the hips high, the more you get that arch in your low back. The more you're having to push against your own body tension, the more challenging this will be. Make sure you're really trying to keep the elbow creases forward as much as possible, so towards your hands. We'll finish this one, and I'll shut off that beaver. Sorry. Last one. Whew. Oh, there we go. Cool. Almost perfect timing. So, take about a minute or two. Rest, cool down. Let the heart rate settle. Water, excellent idea. If you have a water bottle, you know, if you're in your house, you can just get water. Make sure you're moving around during this rest period. You don't want to just sit. You want to allow the blood to kind of keep circulating through your body. Doing some calf raises is helpful. So you get a lot of blood pump from moving your legs. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to demonstrate the next set of 3 exercises. You can continue your rest period, or if you want to, you can try these with me. Find the progression right now as opposed to during the exercise. So first up, tricep bridges. So if you had trouble in the warm-up during the shoulder bridges, do those. Or if you know that you have wrist or shoulder injuries, do those. Do the shoulder bridges. Which I'll demonstrate real quick. Just again, find the glutes, push, and that's the shoulder bridge, up and down. So if you want to try and push yourself a little bit more, tricep bridges. So hands out to the side, thumbs pointing forwards, right by your hips. And have your feet at full extension. Shift your hips to that halfway point. And this is where you push and down. So the goal here, the ribs stay connected to the pelvis. So you don't flare your ribs up and you push the ground away. Touch and push. Right, back and forth with this. Exhaling as you come up. If you want to try and get a little bit fancier, make this a little bit harder, you can go up, march, march, and down. March, march, and down. All right, if you're doing standard bridge without the marching, well, actually, if you're doing the marching, you'll do half as many, so it takes longer. Of the 8 to 12, actually, all of these are 8 to 12. They're all pretty difficult movements. Next up is a V up. So it's a form of crunch. You're gonna have your legs here set so you feel weight on your pelvis, your spine's in the ground. Extend your legs as far as you can without losing that spine. So if you're here and your pelvis comes up, bring it back down. Bend the knees if you need to, that's totally fine. What you're gonna do here, your arms come up and reach toward the ceiling and then down. Ceiling and down. All right, notice my arms on this straight plane. If you reach this way, you're gonna be compressing in the front here as opposed to trying to lift. You want to think about lifting off the ground. Now, if this is easy, right, you extend the legs more. You can let them come down a little bit, again, keeping that weight here. You can think each time, let the arms come back. But it's still the same upwards motion. Really focus on the spine connection. It's very important. Last one up is push-up pulses. So, into a push-up position, which is a plank. You're here. You're gonna sink down as far as you can, comfortably, and you push up. Right? So if that's here, that's here. Then you're gonna pulse. Right? And that's it. You're gonna do pulses, come up when you need to, and then get back into the pulses. So you're going like 2, back up. Or if you can go 4, and then you're like, I need to come out, back up. All right? If you can come down to here, and then back up, totally fine. So wherever you can get down to and still feel like you can push yourself back up, and that's where you're gonna do your pulses. And those are the 3 exercises for this round. They're all pretty challenging. All of them are 8 to 12. So we're going to do 6 minutes on the clock, starting with the tricep bridge in 3, 2, and let's go. Hands, feet, slide, and drive. So again, if you're doing the standard ones, you're here. If you're doing shoulder bridges, shoulders are on the ground, you're still finding glutes. If you want to do marching, touch. If you're doing marching, really focus on that glute squeeze, on that post leg. You're pushing the ground away, opening your chest up, touching, driving, using the hips, feeling that glute squeeze. Try not to lift too high with the head. You want to think the head is extending behind you. And touching, going up. And there we go. And V-ups. So, adding that weight on the spine, extending the legs, arms are up. And if you want to, you can go down with your arms first, and then up. But make sure you're reaching towards the ceiling. Totally fine to have the knees like this, wherever you can feel that weight on your spine, all the way up your spine. If you want it to be harder, move your legs further forwards. But again, make sure you only move them as far forwards. You can keep your spine on the ground. Exhaling as you reach. That was well. And push-up pulses. In that plank position. Sink it down and pulse. Make sure you're exhaling. Woo. Okay, so 8 to 12. You can do it in a single set like that. You can try for it. If you're struggling with that and you need to come up more, it's totally fine. Just make sure you're exhaling as you do that. And that's back to heart rate. Shift it forwards, pushing the ground away, up. And again, if you're at the point where you feel comfortable marching, you can march. If you're not, you can do the static, or not static, the active tricep bridge. If you feel like you're still not here, you can do shoulder bridge like so. You need to do shoulder bridge with the marching. You want to find that little bit of a middle ground for your hips. Make sure you're keeping the ribs connected to the pelvis, but keeping the abs squeezed really hard. Finding glutes, pushing the ground away. Now touching. And there we go. Now for the V-ups. Again, setting that leg position when you find weight on your spine. And you don't have to have your arms come back. If you want a little bit more of a challenge, you can. Make sure you're breathing out as you go up. Oh man, those are hard. All right, I'm gonna change up the push-up poses I did this time. I'm gonna do the push-up every 2. I want this to be a little bit more work. If you want to do push-ups every 3 or every 4, or just the full pulse, that's up to you. So exhale, exhale, push. Make sure you're keeping heels pushed back, glutes engaged, abs engaged. Okay, that was hard. Okay, we got time to go through a little bit more. We're gonna do the tricep brush again. Sliding, pushing, abs engaged, glutes engaged. Drive the hips up. You're at that marching stage. Try and keep your hips fully extended when you're doing your march. So really squeezing, tailbone up to ceiling. And there it is. And that is round 2. Woo, that one got me good. So remember, rest period, walking around, catching your breath. I don't think I said this earlier. Don't feel like you have to be pacing me or pushing yourself to my level. The point of this, why I go through so many progressions, is so that you can find something that's challenging for you, where you're at. You need to remember to say this in the beginnings. But you do want to be pushing yourself to the point that you're sweating, your heart rate's elevated, you're breathing hard. Preferably to the point that you can still talk a little bit. If you notice in some of these, I get to the point where I'm just like, I can't talk. That's borderline. Depends on how comfortable you are with that level of exertion. If you are super comfortable with it, by all means, it's good to push yourself hard. But if that's not something you regularly hit, and in terms of heart rate, keep it down a little bit just for safety purposes. I'm going to demo the last round. We'll go through it, and we'll do a quick cool down. Okay. So the first movement, single leg, mainly deadlifts. This way. Sit up nice and tall, hovering on one leg. If you have balance trouble, feel free to put a hand to a wall. Hips go backwards, you're pushing this foot. Oh, no, not hips backwards, sorry. This heel goes backwards, reaching as far as you can. And then you come down, and then you come up. Heel drive, extending backwards, shifting, you feel that hamstring tension, and up. You want to make sure when you're coming up, you're finding the glute, pushing your hips forwards. There's no real way to make this significantly more difficult, unless you want to try closing your eyes. That's just really hard balance-wise. You can have your arms forwards, like this. That does put a little bit more load into the leg. It actually makes it slightly easier to balance. Depends on what you want to try and work. Next up, what did I say? Yes. Superman rocks. So this is an exercise for the back. Thumbs to shoulder like this. Abs engaged, hips into the ground. What you're going to do here, up and up. So you're rocking back and forth, trying to pull and then pull. You should feel this in the back all the way up to your neck. Difficulty increase, go higher. Difficulty decrease, go lower. It's really straightforward there. And the last one is an arm sequence. Standing, going to lift out to the side, feeling lateral shoulders keeping them down. Reach forwards, lift up, all the way down. Lateral, forwards, squeezing the chest all the way down. You want to feel the pecs when you're going up and forwards, going out to the side. You want to feel your shoulder blades rotate. Numbers 5 to 8 of the RDL per leg, 8 to 12 of the other two. Superman rocks and the lift fly sequence. Okay, in 3, 2, and let's go. Single leg RDLs, up nice and tall. I'll do the extended arm version, show a little bit more weight. Ooh, kicking the wall. So if you're doing this one, try and think thumbs to ceiling. And really focus on the ribs down. If you're doing the other one, you want to just keep your chest nice and open, pushing that leg back, abs engaged, ribs are shifted towards the pelvis slightly, head is back, and then the other leg. Do a couple of these ones just to make it even. See, like I said, it's very different here. With the arms extended like this, you don't have to push your hips as far back. So it changes the weight distribution in your hips. I kind of find it more challenging to go here, but you do put a lot more load through the upper back with your arms extended. So feel free to play around with this. There's a lot of different ways to work these kinds of motions, to make them more challenging. But make sure your head is back, your abs engaged, your ribs are shifted downwards, whichever version you are doing. Okay, Superman rocks. On the ground, thumbs to shoulders, extended legs up. So exhaling. Pulling yourself up, squeezing the glutes, driving your feet up off the ground. Oh. Those are not super easy. I know they look kind of silly, but they're really good for getting the spine. Put some work in different ways. Hip width, arms up, forwards, lift, and down. Reaching as far as you can as you go forwards. Feeling that stretching in your pecs. Down, lift. Going 8 to 12 of these. Try and really think. When you bring your arms up, you're squeezing the fingertips together. Don't let your ribs shift upwards. So when you're coming up, you want to keep the ribs from down so you're not doing this, because then you're not actually stretching in the shoulders. You're using your upper back mobility. Is not what the goal of this is. Squeezing the fingertips, coming up as high as you can without shifting your ribs. And just letting it go open. It's kind of working a little bit on diving technique, because the more you can get your body streamlined in a dive, the easier your dive is. And if you get your ribs flared when your arms are overhead, you got that big billow right there, and it makes it a little bit harder to get that dive in. So probably not as much as bodily autonomy, anatomy changes things. You should be getting some nice burning in your shoulders from this. This is 12. Oh, okay. Single leg RDLs. Shift legs. Remember which leg you started on. Trying to keep weight on the outside edge of your foot. Maintaining the balance. Pushing your heel backwards. Your head staying towards the ceiling. Ribs are staying down. Finding that tension in the glute. And you push forwards. Right here, you're pushing forwards. On the other side. 5 to 8 again. You don't have to be matching my pace or my number count. Anywhere in the range is acceptable. Any speed, well, not any speed, but like if you need a little bit of a breather each time you come up, totally fine. Trying to work on inhale, exhale. I like to think of my lungs as the bellows that drive my motion. And now we're doing Superman rocks to the ground. Thumbs to shoulder. Pointing the feet. Exhaling as you lift. Oh wow. This one went slow. So we'll go ahead and finish the second round. The last 2 exercises. Do a really quick cool down. Just to make sure you get out of here on time. Last up, lift fly sequence. Should go for 8 of these. Down. Sometimes I forget when I throw in unilateral or these slower multi-step movements. It takes a lot longer. And last one of these. And there we go. Now go ahead. Take some nice deep breaths. If you need to head out now, totally understandable. I will go through a real quick cool down if you have time. Just try and take some really deep breaths. Allow your heart rate to slow down before we start the cool down. Because you don't want to be laying on the ground. Your blood's still trying to circulate, gets it everywhere. So in fact, we'll start our cool down standing. So we're going to do some C curve stretches. So you're going to plant one foot down. Opposite arm, opposite leg are going to be moving. So you're going to reach your arm across, side step, and you're pushing your hips that way. And then come back. And then reach. Nice big inhale. Exhale, you squeeze into it. And then come back. Do one more on that side. Nice big inhale. And your inhale, you should feel that increased tension. Exhale, push, and come back. Now we're going to do the other side. Arm up, knee bent on the opposite side, reach. Big inhale, feel that stretching in your rib cage. Exhale, push into it a little bit more. And come back. I'm going to do 2 more on that side. Nice big inhale. back. Last one. Should feel this hip all the way up into your shoulder. And there we go. Got some nice lat stretching in. Forward, fold. No. Let's see, those are, yes. Okay, so we're gonna do a wall pec stretch. If you have access to a wall, doorway, anything like that, you're gonna put your hand on it above your shoulder, palm into the wall, thumb is up. A little bit of a lunge. And then you're going to think you're taking your inside leg, inside hip, and pushing it forwards, kind of diagonally. And then release. And you're pushing that hip forwards. Nice big inhale and exhale, and back. If you want more of a stretch, you can get your arm up higher. You can get a little closer to the wall. I'll put more stretch in your pec. Again, pushing that inside hip. We'll do one more on this side. Make sure your abs are engaged. So you don't want to let your ribs open up, because then you're not going to be stretching the pecs as much. Last one on the other side. You might feel this a little bit in the hip flexor. That's totally fine. In fact, it's helpful to get multi-point stretching at once. It's more efficient. Again, pushing the hip away. Thumb is up to the ceiling. And back. Nice big exhale. Holding in this position for a breath cycle. Exhaling as you push that hip a little bit more. And coming back out of it. Trying to feel stretching the pec, maybe stretching the hip flexor. Abs are engaged. Last one. Come out of that. By now, should be breathing calmly. Heart rate should be lowered. We're going to call that the cool down so we don't take too much time. Hope you enjoyed this class. I teach it every week. So hope to see you next time. You are watching this at a later date.